Today was meant to be the day of the Russian invasion. Instead, they've come to take part in a pitch invasion for the hastily convened Day of National Unity. This is the Olympic Stadium, where the finals of the 2012 Euros were played in a distant era. But today the stands are empty, and a 200-meter flag gets top billing. This is Ukraine's contribution to the information war that has accompanied a crisis that's had the world on edge. Ukraine is not yet dead. The pessimistic chorus of the national anthem, the climax of what you might call Kiev productions. And although they may have felt like extras in a movie, that's not to take away from the authenticity of their emotions.
What do you feel in your heart right now?
It's very good. It's a very good day for Ukraine nation or for Ukraine country. It's perfect.
Is this sending a message to Vladimir Putin?
Yes, I think yes.
What's the message?
No war.
I don't know how I can explain you, because it's very in my heart. It's very nice that we can to take this flag.
What's your message to Vladimir Putin?
I would like you to say that be please together with us.
A quick word from the head of this production, Volodymyr Zelensky, a man who played a president on television before he became one in real life. Donning the casual look, he loves to love-bomb his people on social media.
І ніхто наш дім не буде так любити, як ми любимо. І ніхто, тільки ми разом зможемо наш дім захистити. З Днем єднання, синьо-жовті, з Днем єднання, Україну, схід, захід, південь, північ.
Contrast that with the rival production company, Kremlin Pictures, if you like. More old school. For a government protesting peace, Moscow is very slick at showing images of war. This was their latest offering today for military exercises held within earshot of the Ukrainian border. And yes, they may be withdrawing some troops. According to the Kremlin, these tanks left occupied Crimea on a powder-pink bridge. But the US and NATO remain to be convinced about any genuine de-escalation.
We have heard the signs from Moscow about readiness to continue diplomatic efforts. But so far, we have not seen any de-escalation on the ground. On the contrary, it appears that Russia continues the military build-up.
And then there's the latest installment of the Kremlin's daily court circular. Today's guest, Brazil's President Jair Bolsonaro. After the vigorous handshake, the tiny table. His reward for being a Latin American strongman, or because he took the Kremlin's PCR test and clearly didn't mind leaving a speck of his DNA in Moscow. Unlike Emmanuel Macron or Olaf Scholz, the German Chancellor, who both got the 4-meter elongated slab. The point is that they've all felt the need to flock to Moscow in recent weeks, to pay their respects to Mother Russia's suffering in the Great War, to look into the soul of their inscrutable host in a production made in Moscow. Well, earlier I spoke to Ukraine's deputy head of the Office of the President and head of Foreign Policy, Igor Zhovska, and asked him if he'd seen any evidence at all of a Russian withdrawal.
If you're asking me about the current situation for the time being as we speak, unfortunately, this is not the case. We hear signals, but, we believe not in signals, but in deeds. And sometimes this is deeds which Russia lacks.
So was it helpful of the American intelligence, American administration, to talk about an invasion on Wednesday, today, which clearly hasn't happened?
If you're talking about intelligence information, to the best of my knowledge, it's better to share the intelligence information between the intelligence community or between the leaders rather than put them into the public.
So you think the tactic of making everything public was the wrong one?
Well, everything which brings to the result is good. The result will be with the withdrawal of troops now currently and the general withdrawal of troops of Russia, not only from the borders but from the occupied territories, that would be good. So we're hoping that this diplomatic pressure, exerted diplomatic pressure, would help.
But the result may never come, or not in a very clear form. I mean, President Putin has you at the moment where he wants you, which is on tenterhooks.
Well, we live in these conditions, just let me remind you, throughout the last 8 years.
But not as critical as this right now.
Well, let me remind you about the last military build-up we had in April last year. The numbers of the troops around Ukraine and in the occupied territories were more or less the same. Can I tell you that this is the last military build-up? Definitely not. No one can tell you except one person. Our armed forces are much stronger than they used to be in 2014. Our intelligence community are much more equipped. Our soldiers are equipped with the weaponry which we also get from our Western partners in much bigger amount than we used to have in 2014. The attention of the international community to Ukraine is much bigger than in 2014 because, well, honestly, the reaction was almost absent at the beginning of Russian aggression.
But are you 1 inch closer to actually joining NATO?
Well, you know, this is a complicated issue to my country because we want to be a part of NATO. This is enshrined in our constitution. That is the strategic goal of the foreign policy, and that's what the President is exerting every effort to do this.
But you're not going to get that, are you? I mean, let's be honest here. NATO is not about to make you a member.
For the time being, yes, but let's hope for the better in future. Again, what Ukraine is left to do? Ukraine is left to do to undergo with its reforms in the sphere of security sector, in the sphere of armed forces. We have participation of Ukrainian armed forces in every NATO-led peace-building or peacekeeping operation.
But NATO members are not prepared to risk war with Russia in order to let you join the club. It sounds brutal, but that's the fact, isn't it?
Okay, in this case, I would ask you whether NATO members would be ready to wage a warfare with Russia if Russia invades one of the NATO members.
That's a different matter.
Yes, okay, but you had this story, you saw what was happening on the Belarus-Lithuanian border or with other borders of the NATO members. So I think NATO, it's high time for NATO to think generally, are they ready? Are they really ready? Are they really prepared for the worst case scenario? And this is where Ukraine can help NATO to be more ready.